And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Welcome to Open Connection, your host, Robert Pictou. Our show today comes to you from the traditional and unceded territory of the Tsimshian people. The price of food at the checkout counter includes the production, processing, distribution, and retailing of food. It does not include the cost to healthcare from diet-related diseases, current and future environmental impacts. On today's Open Connection, we open our archives to bring you this story from 2003.
I have a friend who said her dream is just to go to the store and buy whatever she wants one day because she has to shop so carefully, as I do, to choose things.
The Olsen family is one of about 800 families in Terrace living on a low income and trying to eat nutritionally. It's not easy.
And the reality is, the big problem is that people don't get enough money. So one of our key recommendations out of that report is to advocate for fairer income assistance rates.
Help is needed, and a recent report published by the Dietitians of Canada concludes low-income families are more desperate than ever.
In the last week of May, early June, nutritionists throughout the whole province go out and cost a common basket of 66 foods, and then those data are collated to tell us how much it cost for individuals to eat, and it gives us a number. So this year for the province, it was $648 a month to feed a reference family of 4.
We try and supplement our income. The children do papers. Keith has a paper route himself so that we can afford those extra things. I mean, they're not extra, but they're extra to us.
Ms. Olsen emphasizes it's important to make choices and shop around for the best prices. But sometimes
it's going to be quantity versus quality. And it'll be things like pastas and potatoes, and vegetables will be a rare thing. Meats will be the lowest quality because it's cheap. And there'll be days they will probably go without things they really need, like fruit.
Terrace Anti-Poverty Society works on the front lines with families daily and says Southern BC doesn't take into consideration the higher costs in the north. Adding, when a family is done paying monthly bills, they should have around $600 for food, but realistically have around $300.
I find myself struggling when I'm on a low budget, and so what I do, I try and include all the 4 food groups.
Karen Mercer has a newborn and has had to learn to eat within her means, often limited means of finance. And she's reached out to the Building Healthier Babies program.
And this is the home of Building Healthier Babies and Building Blocks. Building Healthier Babies is a pregnancy outreach program, and we were one of 10 pilot programs about 14 years ago in the province. We are open to any woman in the community who's pregnant, and she can come here for nutrition information, how to take care of herself during pregnancy, just any information around pregnancy and labor and delivery.
Education may be key in teaching families how to eat nutritionally on their limited incomes, and the programs offered at the Terrace Child Care Development Center take nutrition back to the basics.
Our program, when we're teaching nutrition, we always keep in mind that people are on a tight budget, regardless if they're really, really low income or if they just have a high debt. And so we do a lot of cost comparison, teach people how to get the most for the money that they're spending.
Before, we've been going for all the name brand stuff and everything. It looks better and all that. And now we basically go for best cost. We go shopping around different stores every time. Basically, you find different prices in different stores.
The Child Development Center offers pancake mixes to any families that need something immediately. And they have a shelf where families can trade canned goods they don't use for ones they will use. There are numerous available programs to help families in Terrace, and each helps in their own unique way.
We have the community gardens. Clients will sign up and get a garden plot, and the plots they grow their own fresh vegetables and what have you in the gardens, and then that helps supplement their food.
The Good Food Box makes us more independent. It's not charity, it's not gift, right? We're paying for that, and we get more value for our money. It goes just about twice as far, depends on the month. And the children are always eager to see the Good Food Box come. They get their banana or their what right away before we even leave the parking lot.
The Good Food Box has been operational in Terrace for a year and now works with over 150 families offering nutritional foods at lower rates. But right now, families need help. According to the Cost of Eating in BC report, a family of 4 with low income will have $608 left after paying for food and shelter costs. A family of 4 on income assistance will be left with minus $17. A single-parent family with 2 children will have $50 after paying all the bills, and a young pregnant woman won't be able to make it, with minus $141. The results may be startling to many, but for the Olson family, Karen Mercer, and Mark Azak, it's something they struggle with every month. Nutrition is important, but the bottom line is it's not always a realistic option.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Thank you for staying with us. The Spanish flu pandemic is one of the deadliest pandemics in history, killing an estimated 50 to 100 million people. The flu first appeared in Newfoundland and Labrador, killing Indigenous people at a death rate 9 times higher than Euro-Canadian settlers. Let us return to the archives as Tess Tessier shares how her mother helped those in need.
A lot of people around Terrace know Tess Tessier. She's a colorful woman with colorful stories. More stories, in fact, than she's been able to tell so far. Stories of her grandmother and other personalities, not of BC's north, but of the far north of the Arctic. The stories she's collected in her own travels in the north date back 70 years and more.
And I decided that I'm pushing the big 8-0. I've got to do something about it and do it as quickly as possible. It's got to go in the right place.
For the moment, Tessier has laid out her treasure trove of materials in an office above the Terrace and District Credit Union. Her grandmother's portrait is here. Mary Norman Cost went to the Arctic to nurse the Inuit stricken by the flu epidemic of 1917.
It says, Icebound hospital. Under the pile of snow is an igloo or Eskimo hut.
Another article tells of Mary's 3-month journey with a driver to take a mentally ill Inuit woman to Edmonton for treatment.
She hired a driver, an Inuit driver and his wife, to take her to Edmonton, 2,000 miles from Aklavik to Edmonton, with an insane Inuit lady that had to go to a hospital in Edmonton. It took her 3 months to make that trek by boat, by dog team, by horses, by a raft, but she did it. That's the kind of stories I want young girls to know about, these women who did this 70, 80 years ago. I want girls to understand this.
Mary Cost later married a trapper and went into the fur trading business.
This is where my grandmother's scow with 2 tents on it, drifting down 2,700 miles of Athabasca, Slave, and the Mackenzie River to Aklavik to her trading post.
But Tessier's grandmother isn't the only adventurous woman whose stories are contained here.
For me to get a lot of their stories, I went across to Newfoundland 3 times. I knew where there was somebody in Calgary, Winnipeg, Toronto, Barrie, Ontario, Newfoundland. So I would go and get in touch and say, I'm coming with my tape recorder and my camera, and they'd say, fine. Ethel Hewer, whose stories I have, the minister said, who wants to go to Herschel Island? She puts up her hand and says, I'll go. She had no idea she had to come across the ocean to Montreal, Montreal by train to Edmonton, Edmonton to Fort McMurray by train, 2,700 miles of the Mackenzie, the Athabasca, the Slave River, to Aklavik, which was 2,700 miles of waterways, to my grandfather and my grandmother's trading post, the Cost Hotel, and then up by kayak to Herschel Island, where there was 30 people to be a teacher. These letters were all letters that were written home to their parents. And I happened to visit them when they retired back in Toronto. I visited them, and they said, here's my box of letters from my mother that I wrote. Do you want them? And I said, sure. Shingle Point, Arctic Ocean, March 19th, 1930. My dear folks at home.
Tessier wants to share these stories, but she isn't sure how to do it. She's seeking government grants and hoping some local people might volunteer to help her sort through this collection, cross-index it, especially the women's stories.
I just want these stories told to children today of determination, stamina, drive, courage. I want them to know that there was women like this that did this. Well, men too, but it was a man's world up there. Today, it's a woman's world as well. So I guess this is what I really want. I don't know.
Jim Terrian is pretty incredible. What gets a person that title? Try single-handedly raising more money for cancer than most cities do combined. Try walking across Canada, there and back in less than a year, and try doing all of that while being deaf. Jim Terrian is pretty incredible.
Jim's always been good, right from when he was young. He was always neat and clean, and the kids always enjoyed coming over to play with him because he would build roads for the cars, and they just loved it. So and even as he got older, he's always been perfect.
Jim has lived in Prince Rupert his entire life, and everyone in town knows him. He collects money for the Terry Fox Foundation, and every year he seems to wow organizers.
He is known at the Terry Fox Foundation. They'll always say, "Oh, how's Jim doing?" And they'd love him dearly down there because he is one of the biggest supporters, and he has raised the most amount of money as a single person.
This year Jim collected a little less than what he's used to, but with Prince Rupert's economy being the way it is, he still did better than expected. Jim planned on only raising $10,000, but he exceeded that and raised over $14,000. That seems like a lot, but in the past, he has raised over $47,000 in just 4 months.
Jim followed Terry Fox from the day he started his walk until the day he finished. Oh, he was just drawn to Terry Fox. I don't know what it was that, I guess it was because of what he was doing. And with Jimmy being a walker, that was really something for him.
Ever since Terry Fox did his walk, Jim had wanted to do the same. He figures he has walked the same distance as the circumference of the world 3 times. In 1990, Jim walked across Canada. It was deemed the silent walk, and it was one of his goals he wanted to accomplish. The next one on his list to check off? Raising $1 million for the Terry Fox Foundation. And he's already a third of the way done.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Welcome back to Open Connection. Battle rap is like a verbal warfare where competitors trade insults, wordplay, and clever rhymes in a competitive setting. It's all about lyricism, delivery, and sometimes even performance. It's a blend of poetry, wit, and bravo, often performed in front of an audience or a judge panel. Let us return to the archives as a Community Center hosts a rap battle.
When I spit, take a hit, better take a seat, cause I'm gonna defeat, nobody gonna leave.
Why you come against me? I'm an MC that's empty, that just says what he says to get the paper with the dead press. My rap
It's Friday night, and James is doing what he loves best. After a week balancing school, a full-time job, and 2 small children, this 22-year-old has come to the Cremoti Friendship Center to blow off some steam.
Instead of using your fists, use words to go at your opponent and aim at certain spots that you know about your opponent.
It's called battling, and that's how Freestyle Fridays begin. 2 rappers step up without anything prepared and let their words flow.
So they convinced me that they needed to use some swear words too. Sometimes it's a form of expression. I don't think I've ever heard a rap song that doesn't have some form of swearing. So that was okay as long as they didn't use any words that were offensive, like towards women or towards other people's cultures and that.
Cinnamon watches as the battles continue, pulling the reins when the rhymes push the boundaries, but for the most part, the kids are allowed to speak their minds.
I use it to express myself, mainly when I'm mad or when I'm feeling like I need to say something.
But rap isn't just about the battle. It's also an art form, and the youth here consider themselves to be artists.
It's a way to express yourself, and if you're having a bad day, you can go write some things down.
My song is Dawn of a New Era. I'm the dawn of a new era, not trying to...
Tiara, Robert, and James were behind the creation of Freestyle Fridays. Tiara's even began recording her rhymes, cutting tracks just like the rap stars she admires.
like how I write my music is like poetry. I'm a poet, and when I hear their music, I mean, I like their style and like how fast they can go and how they put their words together.
As one of the few women here tonight, Tiara has her work cut out for her, but she says she likes it that way. It gives her an added challenge.
If you're good, I mean, you can catch attention, and if you have people's attention, like usually at first it's because like, oh, there's a chick rapping, I gotta hear if she's good. And then if you're good, and then they really start listening and they hear your words, and if you have the right words, then that makes all the difference.
The people are equal. Wolves, ravens, bears.
James is also trying to make a difference by spreading positive ideas for his life and his culture. He first performed in front of an audience at Aboriginal Day in Terrace, but he also raps about the harder things going on in his life.
Street violence and stuff going on in my home and family and stuff.
Unfortunately, in Terrace, we have a high rate of teens drinking, high rate of teen pregnancy.
And Cinnamon says the Freestyle Friday night gives these kids an alternative place to be where they can create art and sort things out instead of complicating their lives further. After all, when you're young, life is complicated enough.
In a time when Prince Rupert was covered with fleets of boats and almost everyone had a job working on the water, there was Charlie Curry and his tugboat. Charlie's touch and craftsmanship is a part of the history of this area, and soon Charlie may be added to that.
We've promised it to the Museum of Northern British Columbia, and they will display it as they see fit. But in the short term, we intend to keep it running in the harbor with Butch Curry at the wheel.
It only seemed proper that one of Charlie's sons would be the next in line to take the wheel. When the CRC was first brought back to Prince Rupert after being left on the Queen Charlotte Islands, Charlie's family thought the idea of restoring it was crazy.
Well, it was in such terrible shape. You know, I thought it was going to be an awful expense to do what we've done, and yet everybody's, the time and effort and money that people have put into it has been great.
The CRC was Charlie's boat, and it was named after his son who was born the year it was launched. You don't usually see a wooden boat in the harbor these days, but soon that may change. After 6 years of restoring it, it will soon return to the waters around Prince Rupert. From the memories of his youngest son Butch, details like the colors of paints to the windows were replicated. Many people's hard work has been put into the tug. Randolph Mostad did the entire wheelhouse and knew Charlie Curry. He says he was surprised at the condition the boat was in.
It looked bad, but there wasn't much rot in it, so you just had to more or less take everything apart and clean up all the wood, and rebuilt a few parts and stuff, and varnish things up.
In the years to come, the people who have restored the classic tug want to showcase it for the people of Prince Rupert to see, and eventually it'll end up in the Museum of Northern BC. The people who have been involved in the restoration of the CRC are proud to say they either knew Charlie Curry or have been touched by the kindness he showed everyone. This is their tribute to him.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Found on the Work BC website, a career transition tool demonstrates how transferable work-related skills can be used when looking for work or exploring career options. In this final segment of Open Connection, we return to the archives with Larry Merrill.
One of the first steps to be done is trying to assist people to get through the anger stage. The defeat stage. Some people have lost basically their whole lifestyle, and it's hard on folks.
Larry Merrill has been a part of Terrace Interconnect since it opened its doors in 1987. And there are similarities between now and then, but also a few disturbing differences, especially the number of older workers being forced to start over.
I do have observed a slow transition from a strictly forced-based economy that it was in the 1980s into a more diverse economy.
It's painful though, isn't it?
It's very painful, particularly for some of the older time local people who had built their lives on on that resource industry and are having to make career transitions at a later state in life. That's a hard thing to do.
And much has changed since these people first entered the workforce. The most dramatic change is the advent of computers and the internet, something that Interconnect pays special attention to.
How to get on the internet and learn how to, I learned about the different job sites, and those are things that I probably wouldn't have done on my own.
Computer skills nowadays are, like you say, are crucial, and that is an actual skill that you can list on your resume, and they look for that. They look for like computer literate people, along with a lot of other skills like enthusiasm, dedication, focused, and that sort of thing. And again, with the youth, they don't realize that they have that, even though they've done lots of part-time jobs. And also volunteer work gives you a lot of skills too.
Terrace Youth Opportunities is the next-door neighbor and partner of Interconnect, and as its name implies, it deals with younger clientele, ages 15 to 30. But the goal of both organizations is the same, to find people meaningful work. For older workers, there are a few additional challenges that Interconnect has to address.
First step is to help people identify the things they have done, the things that they were good at, the things that have brought them satisfaction in their previous career, and begin to build from that of what new job directions they can take and transfer these skills to.
You need to figure out where you want to go. You need to figure out what you want to do, and that's what they call here in the office career mapping. And you sit down with one of the employment counselors and they would let you know. You do career mapping with them and some goal setting and stuff like that, and you might end up coming up with a job that you would never even think about coming up with for yourself.
But Larry Merrill thinks they're on the right track and they're making headway, even in a tough economic climate, and his clientele appears to agree.
I think we're doing well. I wouldn't want to put a figure on it particularly, because with some people it's real high, other folks is maybe a little lower, but overall people are finding jobs. There is work to be had.
For older workers or mature workers out there, you know, like if they really want a job and just don't know where to start, this is a good starting place, and I strongly recommend it.
Interconnect is here, and I think it's going to be here for a long time, which is a good service. And if anything happened to it, I think there'd be a lot of people that might just be a little bit lost.
I've been here for almost 25 years, and I feel that way too. It was great.
Yeah, it was fun.
The worst part was just sort of running into it and dunking yourself into the water, but otherwise it was great.
And my breath got taken away. I had a little trouble. That little gas was going on, but everything's fine. It was fun.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Open Connection. The greatest distance in the existence of man is not from here to there, but the connection from his mind and heart. If we can conquer that distance, we can soar like an eagle and realize our immensity within. I'm Robert Pictou.